What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Full 90. Now, I only decided recently to make this video. I thought it'd be a lot of fun. It's going to be my EFL or Carabao Cup predictions for this week, and there should actually be the start of another new series that isn't Premier League or Champions League predictions on this channel, hopefully this week, football related, of course, so stay tuned for that. Subscribe and turn on the notifications to not miss a single upload. Now, obviously, this is the round of 16 for the Carabao Cup. There were some insane scenes in the last round. Obviously, Derby knocking out Manchester United being the main one, and then Burton knocking out Burnley, the League One to the Premier League clash, which is super cool. So now we are down to 16 teams, which are Leicester, Southampton, Bournemouth, Norwich, Burton, Albion, Nottingham Forest, Arsenal, Blackpool, Chelsea, Derby, West Ham, Tottenham, Middlesbrough, Crystal Palace, Man City, and Fulham. So obviously City, they're the big boys in there. Chelsea, Arsenal. I think it is honestly going to be between City, Chelsea, or Arsenal. I can't see any other teams really going all the way. So yeah, and the reason I say Arsenal is because I think looking at the brackets, they have an easier route to the final than the other big teams, so it looks like they have a decent chance to win. But before I do get into any predictions, I do just want to say that my thoughts are with Leicester Football Club, and anyone that was affected by the helicopter crash. If you don't know, the owner of Leicester City and a few others actually died in a crash after, I believe it was after the Leicester game on Saturday, and as a result, the Leicester-Southampton game that is still a part of this round of 16 that was supposed to be at the King Power Stadium is going to be postponed. So I'm not going to be predicting that game in this video, but my thoughts are with those at Leicester and those affected by the tragedy. So a little bit of a somber start, but let's move on to the rest of the video. If you guys could let me know your predictions for the EFL Cup down in the comments, I would love to read them as always. Kicking it off, we have Bournemouth against Norwich. Bournemouth are absolutely flying, and obviously Bournemouth, they're doing it in the Premier League. Norwich, I believe they're in the Championship. Now Norwich are actually doing all right, with only Sheffield United actually winning more games than them, and they will definitely be competitive against Bournemouth. But I think at home, the form that Bournemouth are in, I think Bournemouth are going to see this as a must-win game because, you know, they're not in the Champions League or Europa League or anything this year. They're not going to win the Premier League. Obviously, they're going to be pushing for maybe a Europa League spot if things keep going the way that they have been. But I think this will be, in their opinion, their best chance to get a trophy, get some silverware for Bournemouth. So I definitely think they're going to try their hardest with this game. So that's why I've gone for a 3-1 victory to Bournemouth. I don't think Norwich will be pushovers, and it's very possible that we could see Norwich promoted to the Premier League at the end of the season. But I don't know. I just think that Bournemouth are going to win this with the form that they beat Fulham 3-0 away from home recently in the Premier League, and I do think they are going to be too strong for Norwich. It might be a closer game than 3-1, but Bournemouth love to attack. They love to score goals, and I don't think they're going to stop trying just because it's not a Premier League match. The next match is a very, very difficult one to call. That is League One's Burton Albion against Nottingham Forest. Now, Nottingham Forest are also in the Championship, just like Norwich, a little bit below them, sat in 7th place, so not that bad, surrounded by the likes of Derby, West Brom, Swansea, both who we saw relegated last season, then Norwich, of course, so in the top sort of rung of teams in the Championship. And Burton aren't doing that well in League One. They're currently sat in 16th place, which is quite a drop to even Nottingham Forest in the Championship, and they're really not doing that well. They did beat Aston Villa and, surprisingly, Burnley to get to this stage of the Cup. Nottingham Forest have actually never scored at Burton's ground in the 2 games they've played at Burton. It was 0-0 and 1-0 to Burton, so it is going to be tough for Nottingham Forest, but I just can't see Burton continuing their miraculous run in this competition. I think it ends here, and I think Nottingham Forest are going to get a very decent spot in the quarterfinals, which I'm sure they'll be happy with. So I'm going with a Nottingham Forest away win, 2-1, with them scoring their first goals at Burton's ground ever. Now, the next couple are easier to call. Arsenal against Blackpool. Arsenal are in flying form, and similar in a way to Bournemouth, I think Arsenal are going to see, with the route they've got potentially to the final, and obviously knowing that, yes, they've got Europa League, and they are still pushing in the Premier League, but I think they'll believe that their best chance to secure a trophy this season, obviously there's the FA Cup and stuff like that, but the best chance at the moment, obviously, is going to be the Carabao Cup. And I think, although they will make a few changes, there will be some players on the bench, they might start with some people that they wouldn't usually start with, I think they are going to be too strong for Blackpool at home, and I'm going with a 3-0 Arsenal win. They just got to make sure they tie up their defence, don't do any clumsy challenges. Like in the game against Crystal Palace, they drew 2-2 and they conceded 2 penalties. So, you should be lucky to get away with a draw conceding 2 penalties. So, they need to sort out their defence, but once they get that tightened up, I think they'll be a force to be reckoned with in this competition. The next game is Chelsea against Derby. Now, honestly, I've put this as a Chelsea win, as you would expect, but it wouldn't surprise me if Derby cause an upset. They play very good football, obviously, under Frank Lampard. This is going to be interesting, him returning to Stamford Bridge, and obviously they knocked out Man United almost in the full 90 minutes, but then a late Fellaini goal took it to penalties, which saw Derby finally beat them on penalties. They clearly practiced their penalties as well, because they did very, very well. And yeah, I've got Chelsea to win this one 3-1, but it wouldn't surprise me if Derby put up a lot more of a fight, if it's 2-1 or something like that, maybe even extra time. I can't see Chelsea getting knocked out of the competition, however, so I do think Chelsea are going to qualify, and for the full-time result, I've got them down at 3-1. Now, the next game is the only draw that I've predicted for the EFL Cup, and that is West Ham against Tottenham. Now, West Ham, they do have a few availability issues. I know a few players missed the game at the weekend. Arnautovic was out, Yarmolenko was out as well, but I still think, I get the feeling Tottenham are going to rest a couple players, because also they will be playing on, well, tonight, as the time you watch this video, they'll be playing against Manchester City in the Premier League, so to have another game 2 days later is quite a strain on the players. I'm sure they'll try and rest a few and play some other ones. So I've gone with a West Ham 1 and Tottenham 1 scoreline, with Tottenham to then qualify in the penalty shootout. That's a brave prediction, because penalty shootouts can go either way, really, but if I had to pick a team that would win in the full 90 minutes, I would go with Tottenham, similar to the Premier League matches. When it was West Ham-Tottenham, I predicted a draw, and I said Tottenham would win if I had to pick a team, and they ended up winning 1-0. I think this game is going to be very, very similar, just with perhaps some more fatigued Tottenham players. So I think it's going to end 1-1, and then Tottenham to finally qualify, with them being the better penalty takers on the day. The next game is a very interesting one, and that is Middlesbrough against Crystal Palace. Now, Middlesbrough have been doing very, very well in the Championship, currently sitting in 3rd spot, and Palace are a little bit hit and miss lately, so I genuinely think this is going to be a very good and a very close game. Middlesbrough have the home advantage, but I can't look past Crystal Palace as a Premier League team. They are a decent team. They have decent players. Obviously, they held Arsenal to the 2-2 draw, which was a pretty good result for them, and I do think, similar to Bournemouth, similar to Arsenal, I think they're going to think this is definitely their best chance to get something extra out of this season, and they'll feel lucky that they're up against a Championship side at this stage of the competition, as opposed to a harder, perhaps, Premier League opponent. So I am going to edge the win to Crystal Palace 2-1, but honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if the game ended up as a draw and then Middlesbrough nicked it on penalties, a similar Derby-Manchester United situation in this round, because Middlesbrough are a force to be reckoned with. As we know, they beat Manchester City 8-1 about 10 years ago. Obviously, times were very different, but you never know. And the final game on Thursday, the 1st of November, is Manchester City against Fulham. Now, whether or not Manchester City will rest players, I don't know, because obviously they've got the game against Tottenham on the Monday, and then they'll have another Premier League fixture a few days after this one, so a very busy week for Manchester City. However, I do think they're going to get the win. Whether they play a full-strength squad, I doubt they will. They'll probably bench a few players, give some other players a go, because their squad depth is absolutely phenomenal. And Fulham, they will be quite tired from the recent games as well. Obviously, they got absolutely thrashed by Bournemouth, so their confidence is going to be quite low. I don't know if I'm being generous here giving them a goal, but my final score, I've gone for almost a subdued 3-1 to Manchester City. I think if it was full strength and every team had to play their hardest, I could see a 5-0 win to Manchester City here at the Etihad Stadium. But I think Fulham are going to grab something, and I think sort of almost second-rate Manchester City, maybe, should be able to get this win against Fulham, just standard practice, and win the game 3-1. So that is going to do it for this EFL Cup predictions video. Obviously, we don't know when the Leicester-Southampton game will be, but that's not an issue. We'll find out which of them wins, and then we'll get to the quarterfinal of the EFL Cup. And of course, like I said at the beginning of the video, I am planning on starting a brand new series on the Full 90 channel that is kind of prediction related, kind of not. You'll see, hopefully, if all goes to plan and it gets uploaded. But yeah, either way, leave a like on this video, subscribe today, and I'll see you in the next video very soon.